Okay, third topic of today was Connected UTM. Connected UTM consists of FortiGate, FortiSwitch, and FortiAP, all managed on FortiGate. Over here, we see myself connecting FortiGate to FortiSwitch, and now move on to configure FortiSwitch. We log into FortiGate and navigate to the Wi-Fi and switch controller section. And of course, manage FortiSwitch. But however, there is no switch showing. And this means we haven't configured FortiLink interface yet. So that's the thing we need to do first. You give your link a name and specify the physical members or ports on your FortiGate which take part. Okay, we use the DMZ. It's the best practice to use the DMZ interface because most of the times it isn't used. And now FortiGate can scan on this newly created FortiLink and it will detect a FortiSwitch. We acknowledge FortiSwitch and it will show up here in the GUI. It's perfectly normal. It stays offline for a minute or a minute and a half before it shows up. In the meantime, this gives us the opportunity to check out the newly created FortiLink in the interfaces page. And as you can see, many VLANs were created automatically. The one that matters most here is the VSW VLAN because we will need it later. And in the meanwhile, FortiSwitch has come online. And as you can see, port 24 was used for its connection to the upstream FortiGate. Okay, FortiSwitch is managed by the API FortiGate now. Now we can use any port on FortiSwitch to connect our AP. Well, not any, because we will need power over Ethernet to power the AP. Configuration of FortiAP is quite the same as a switch. So we'll see port 1 is used for the connection to the AP. And when we navigate to manage FortiAPs, nothing shows up. Okay, that means some things need to be done first. As you might remember, VSW link was important, like I said, is the default VLAN on all ports of FortiSwitch, so which means the default untagged VLAN. In order for this to work, we will need to define an IP address on the VLAN interface first and enable DHCP server, because otherwise the AP will not receive an IP address for communication. And we also need to enable CapWeb, because CapWeb protocol is used for communication between FortiGate and FortiAP. Some other settings you can define if you need them, but this is the basic setup we are showing today. Okay, if we navigate to manage FortiAPs, normally the AP should show up. It's nice to note that this was filmed in real time, so it really only takes 30 seconds or 3 refreshes to make your FortiAP to show up. And like the FortiSwitch, you need to authorize it first. So right-click, the menu appears and you can authorize your device. And it's normal, the device is showing as disconnected, but once again, you need to wait a couple of seconds and it will show as online. Here it is, okay. And to make the IP work, you can see there is a default profile loaded into the AP. It's stored in FortiGate. But if you want, you can change this default profile to your liking. So what is profile? Operative access is an important one, and obviously the radio configuration, both of radio 1 and 2, because a 221 only has 2 radios. You can select channels, channel width, and all kinds of settings usually found on an AP. So now the AP is using standard configuration file. That's fine. Let's create an SSID now to be broadcasted to any clients. Interface name is Wi-Fi. And the type is an important one. You can select to use tunnel or bridge mode. We will use tunnel mode today because this will create a virtual interface on FortiGate just like any other interface. This means we will need to define an IP address for it, any administrative access you would need, and also DHCP server because otherwise clients wouldn't get an IP address. The SSID is Fortinet by default, and you can define your pre-shared key. Lots of options are displayed here, but we don't have enough time to go through all of them. And in CLI, you can find many more if needed. Now our SSID is created. You can see it's in tunnel mode and it's online, which means it's broadcasted by the FortiAP. If we go back to the managed FortiAPs pane, might take a while because we have configured some additional settings like the SSID. So the AP will need to reboot and it's back online again. Now, if you want to make some additional changes, it's possible. You can see over here that our AP is using the default profile and it's authorized. Also your firmware version, but it's possible to make overrides. So if you have a default profile for 5 of the same type, but you want to exempt this one from broadcasting a certain SSID or using a radio or some kind of channels, it's possible to configure those overrides here. Now we have a gate, a switch, an AP, and an SSID. Everything is working fine. In order to grant Wi-Fi users access to the internet, we also need to define a policy. How do you define this policy? Just the same way as you would define a policy for a normal or physical interface. So we select Fortinet Wi-Fi SSID. It's only possible because we configured it in tunnel mode. And the outgoing interface is our one interface. Source address all, destination all, or any subnets or users of your liking. And we will have configured a complete branch using FortiGate, FortiSwitch, and FortiAP. You can select, like in any other policy, your security profiles, and then you're done. Hit OK, and you have configured the whole setup. Now, what do you need to make this work? That's coming up soon. FortiGate plus UTM bundle, FortiSwitch, and obviously FortiAP. And we reached the end of the technical demo now.